before we dive into this conversation, I wanted to say thank you to our partners at Salesforce. We bring marketing and engagement together. Learn more at salesforce.com/marketing. Now let's get into it. Let's talk about Dailymotion. Let's talk about what it is, who you're serving, from the outside, kind of outside looking in, like what is the vision? Tell us about the business, because I've heard of it before, but as I was asking other folks on the team, they were like, wait, what is Dailymotion? I think I know, I don't know if I know. So tell the world, what is Dailymotion?
We actually get that a lot. Very simply put, Dailymotion is a video streaming platform. So our focus has been, for the most part, on premium content only. So instead of focusing on UGC or user-generated content like a lot of social media platforms, we focus on working with partners that have their own professionally produced content. So partners like Vice, Condé Nast, Publications, Meredith Publications. And on top of the video streaming, we also have an ecosystem of over 2,000 publishers or so worldwide that use our player. So we're also a player technology. And so those two combined together create our audience. So the easy way to describe Dailymotion is a video streaming platform.
And we're talking about, a couple hundred users, a couple thousand users. What kind of users are we talking about at Dailymotion?
Yeah, of course. So worldwide, we're 395 monthly active users. And obviously our presence is much larger in Europe. We are a French company. We're based and headquartered in France. So a lot of our efforts have been mainly in Europe. We are expanding. We do have offices in Singapore. We have offices in New York, but in terms of business focus is expanding now into the US and LATAM. So while our numbers are still small in the US, they're definitely growing. But our main presence, I would say, is in EMEA.
Wow. Well, in terms of users on the hosting platform itself, and we're talking over 300 million, right? Million users?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I wanted to make sure, but I was setting you up for the big number, but yeah, just so everyone knows, we're talking well over 300 million, active users on this platform. Like Caroline said, we're talking major brands, Vice, People, Universal Music Group, Condé Nast, as she mentioned. So if you don't know, now you know. Dailymotion is not going anywhere, and they're making some moves, and it sounds like globally. So before we get into kind of global scale, I'm curious about, this comes up sometimes in terms of like third-party tracking, right? Like how has disabling third-party tracking affected Dailymotion?
Well, it'll affect all of us,
right?
Deeply. I mean, for the most part, not yet so much. And anything that is cookie-based is not going to have immediate effects. We're thinking they punted it back to 2023 now. We're all prepping for it. We've been prepping for it for the past 2 years, but I think no one is going to make that major change until they actually need to. The way that we are seeing impact right now is just the way that we work with our advertisers in terms of, okay, well, what do you want to target instead? Here is what's available, and here is the gamut of data that you can target against, and who's opting in, who's opting out, et cetera. And adapting what the campaign targeting is going to be with regards to that. It's really working hand in hand with the advertisers for the most part than it is working with the users.
Sure. What do you think is the most important piece of data that you can get about a consumer from the Dailymotion perspective?
Oh, for us, and what we're really putting forward is the actual content views. So Dailymotion is a lot of people come to Dailymotion to watch long form and short form content, professionally produced, and what's interesting for us is really saying, okay, well, here are the trailers that they're watching. Here are the DIY videos that they're watching, et cetera. These are the cooking videos. And from there, you start to create profiles. I think the biggest thing that we're pushing forward is the content segments that you can work with the content segments based on the audience that the audience segments that we're building based on the content that they're watching. My bad.
So what makes good video content in this kind of modern, rapidly changing world that we're in? What makes for good video content now in this modern era?
It's a tricky question to answer because where video trends are going right now is mainly like super short form. You're seeing it with TikTok, you're seeing it with Instagram Reels, even, the YouTube video shorts. And everyone really investing on the short form. But there's also the notion of that's very UGC. And you're seeing other video content producers really pushing on the, let's say, Hollywood style entertainment. But it's not always successful. I think of like Qubit. Was it QB? Sorry, not Qubit. QB. That really pushed that forward. And I think they closed in December. They shut down in December because it was, I think, just too expensive to produce all that content. So for us, there's a place for Dailymotion, I truly believe, to have this video content where it's not super expensive to produce. It's not UGC. And I realize that's not often talked about, but a ton of these publishers actually do invest in putting video content out there that is being overlooked. And I think we can definitely offer to our brands like a very brand safe environment from professionally produced content creators, different than from like a UGC, which I know where the trend is going, but I feel like it's tricky being a social media company in this time and age in terms of the management of the politics.
Right. Is there also a bit of strategy, I guess, from your side to the major brands like Vice and People and Universal Music Group, right? Because to me, you could almost inform them of like, hey, this is the kind of content that you should be creating, could be creating. You need more of this, less of that. Is there a kind of a dialogue that way? Or is it like just, hey, look, I mean, because I think of a Vice, we've had Vice on our shows too. And you know, they create great content. They're great, right? So, but there's insights and things that you have that I think would be valuable from that side. Is that happening a lot?
We definitely do share back. I think that could be way more formalized and structured in the way that we do it. Dailymotion is a small team. We're 300 people worldwide. It's tiny for the size that we are. So there's only so much. But in terms of our partner offering, yes, we have conversations with our partners very regularly. With some of them, depending on the depth of relationship, we will be providing insights. Honestly, it doesn't even go, what you're talking about, I think is super sophisticated. And it's even before that. It's even like where the placement of the video, where it goes, the length of your ads, just advice on the size of video. Like we also work with a lot of partners, you know, who aren't as how to say, video savvy as Vices or as like a Condé Nast is, with whom we have a lot of conversations about improving kind of what that video experience on their site could be.
On the note of short form, obviously that's a big one. I mean, we're seeing that as well. We started uploading all of our podcast interviews. We made them video last year. We started putting them on YouTube and all the platforms and things. And you can see, obviously, short form. I mean, it's as a consumer, I'm there all the time. What's the first thing I'm doing? I'm just looking at a couple clips and I'm out. What can you tell our audience about, like, what are you seeing inside of the short form content? You know, I know there's a lot of brands you work with, but are there different things stylistically? Are there strategies and, you know, high level or, you know, things that you're noticing within the short form? You know, it seems like there's a voracious appetite for it now. Are you seeing innovative, new, interesting things happen in that short form play and any visibility there?
One of the things that always comes up, and it's not going to be really a surprise, so I don't know how much of an insight you'll find this, but it's, you know, episodical. Helps a lot in any way, shape, or form. But I think it's the storytelling aspect of that form. And this works even for advertising. We talk about this a lot with our advertisers as well. Episodical storytelling type of advertising, even videos, if you're, you know, reduce it from your 30-second to your 15-second, make it short, but different, is something that I find works very well. Thinking of ensuring like brand safety and technology, like how do you use technology to help ensure brand safety and properly targeted content? Yeah, I mean, it's the whole premise of Dailymotion. Like the whole reason why we geared away from monetizing user-generated content was to be able to position ourselves as like a hallmark for brand safety. It starts up front with vetting the partners that we work with. So that's not so much a technology play, so much as it is a relationship one and kind of our vetting process. And then there's the technology part of it, which a lot of it is proprietary. So I can't go into the details of it, but yes, you know, we have a lot of internal systems that looks at content and flags, let's say, in various ways and form, what we'd find appropriate. And the criteria was anything from violence to sex, etc.
Sure. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face looking into 2022 in terms of content and safety?
The big one we've already been faced with is kind of the COVID news, like overwhelmingness that I think has taken over all of our news in general, even casual, which in the beginning was very difficult for advertisers to feel comfortable monetizing, like advertising against, which I think there's been an ease to be okay with that now as it becomes part of our daily life.
Sure.
So I'm curious to see how that will evolve in 2020. We were hoping we had such a great 2021 in terms of comeback. I do feel there's a new hesitancy now with advertisers at the beginning of 2022 because of Omicron, et cetera. So we'll see how that evolves over the course of the year. But back to your question more around content. Honestly, I can only think of the COVID one for now. I'm not sure.
That's fine. So in terms of, this concept of safety, and content, like how does that conversation look like globally, right? Because you're serving people, country to country. Yes. Is it the same, or are you kind of having to do things differently because you're communicating with folks that are in different countries?
We adapt very much regionally. The needs and definition of what is brand safe varies already from advertiser to advertiser, but let's say more broadly, region to region, absolutely. Acceptance of certain things in Asia versus Latin America versus the Middle East is extremely different than from certain Western countries. So we definitely do adapt. We have, I would say, our general framework, which we share across the board, and we try to stick to that because it's the easiest to manage. But we'll work individually with advertisers with specific needs.
Are there some countries that are doing a better job in terms of business regulations and data transparency?
Europe and the US are leading on that front. Like there's no doubt about it. It's just they're much more mature markets when it comes to video. There's we're decades ahead in terms of the management and curation of that video, and also the regulation around it.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I'm curious, you probably, you're probably in all kinds of different types of conversations, from different cultures, and you talk about the things that they're facing. Like you said, you kind of have to adapt. And also it's not surprising to hear that the US and Europe are, in some ways leading the way there, and hopefully modeling, most of the right ways to do things, I would hope.
It's still a bit of the Wild West,
right.
In the East and in Latin America. There's a lot of unregulated territories.
Yeah.
In terms of what is advertisable.
How do you look at leveraging data, right? So to help customers, they want to get the right content made and published. What are some of the ways you're leveraging data to help, brands do this now?
Yeah, we've actually just built out a whole data insights team just for that. We're verticalizing it, so that we can adapt those needs. So our big focus right now is on streaming, but our next one will be on luxury, because I do think we've worked a lot and have a good historical, let's say, build up with luxury clients coming from France. It's a bit of a leading market there. So a lot of data and insights and historical information that we can share. Most of it that we do is that we'll set up certain benchmarks through our website using tools on our website, whether it's interviews of our users, whether it's specific tracking, obviously with opt-ins. We'll do a lot of experimentation on our site to gather that type of data, which we'll then use for data insights for our verticalized clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
The sales marketing world is always this, age-old, question that comes up around how modern day kind of alignment between sales and marketing, right? And certainly in your role as VP of Global Client Strategy, you're a stakeholder on the marketing side, you're a stakeholder, on the sales side. What has that been like for you? Has there been some interesting experiences that you've had that have kind of shaped what you do now? How do you view the kind of sales marketing relationship, and especially in the world that you're playing in now with video?
Yeah. It's a great question, especially because we're a small company, so we're talking about working with fewer resources and trying to do very large scale activities, which is why I think what we're working on for the most part, everything that we do has to have a global take on it. Even though we then decline it to the local markets, the first point of attack for us is very global every time. And that's been relative, at least for the past year, since we've instilled this sort of new sales marketing team to help with that global growth. In order for them to be able to do it well, they do it from that perspective. We decided that it used to be so Dailymotion has gone through like these phases. We used to be very engineering first, product engineering first company. There was a slow shift in the past, 2 years or so towards business first, mainly because we built out a product and we need to sell it and go to market with it. And with that, now comes this sort of new mentality, sales marketing first. Like they should be a directive in terms of where the strategy goes. And then we should all push our efforts in a coordinated way across the globe. So now like this verticalization I was talking about, if we're looking at tackling the streaming industry, where clients like Hulu, Netflix, et cetera, we would do that from a whole global perspective. That means my markets in Asia and LATAM will all be tackling the same clients, et cetera. But we'll have set up a strategy for that.
Is there a play for, Dailymotion branded, created content, right? Because you've got all the publishers sharing content, but is there a play kind of like Netflix does where they have their own, sponsored branded shows? Is Dailymotion venturing there at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
What you're talking about is extremely expensive to produce,
and
it would be a very high investment, which I don't think Vivendi is unwilling necessarily to go, but it's not something that we are focusing on right now. Okay. We do have a studio in house, but our studio doesn't make that type of content. It helps make advertising content.
Got it. Okay, cool. So how do you view the Netflix and Hulus of the world? How do you look at those brands?
Clients.
Yeah.
I think they're fantastic. They're wonderful. I'm an avid user as well. But they produce a completely different type of content in a way. So for us, they are our clients. They are potential clients for depending on which markets. With some of them, we work with them. Sure. Others we don't yet. But yes, I guess you can say also competitors when it comes to grabbing people's time.
Yeah.
I do consider the content to be quite vastly different, and there's space for all of it in someone's day.
What are you thinking of kind of your either career or even your time just at Dailymotion, thinking about a favorite campaign, something that was really creative and a project that, did really well. Maybe you could share the use case around that.
Yeah, totally. I think we did something with Netflix a couple of years ago, which was absolutely fantastic. This one was in France, and it was for I'm forgetting the name now, but we created a whole game, an interactive game as part of the ad, because Dailymotion owns the player, and we also control the environment on Dailymotion, so we can do a ton of creative formats for advertising. It's one of our fortes. That's why we have an internal studio for this stuff. So we've definitely had a lot of fun with custom creative formats. So this particular one was the ad would start and you'd have control of the decision of where that person would go.
I love this.
And you kind of played out the game. It was still 30 seconds, but it was super interactive. And in the end, most people clicked out and played the game because we created a little offshoot site for it. And that's always, those campaigns are definitely the most fun. And we do quite a few of those, I guess, every year. And depending on the client, you can have, Netflix is fun because they have so much content to play with.
Sure.
In terms of creation. So that's great. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite failure? Something that really was maybe looked like, okay, this is not good, but then maybe ended up either being a really good lesson learned or maybe something shifted and ended up being a great thing?
Yes. We had this, the vertical view format, which is this format we wanted to test out. It basically, you have your video and this ad would kind of not pop up, but it would take over a vertical sliver of the screen and it'd play at the same time as the content. And it was at first extremely, it was exciting, I think, when we were in production. The executives loved it, but in action with when we were actually selling it with our brands, it ended up very confusing, I think, for the user. There were two videos playing at once. You would scroll over for the sound for one, scroll over for in terms of the usability, I felt like it was a little bit hard. So we had to rectify the way that it was like introduced, because right now it was kind of a little bit of interruptive. But I just remember it being such a big deal. There was press around it. All of our execs were super excited. And then when it actually just came down to the users in experience, we had to adapt it. Definitely lesson learned there.
I've seen versions of this on other sites as well, and some I'm not going to mention them because we've had some of these folks on our shows, but I will say like some really well-known resource sites that a lot of us know of. It's just you go to the site and there's like this thing starts playing. There's a banner that takes over half the screen. There's a video that won't stop. I'm just trying to get to the article, and it's like, how do I click? And then I try to click out and it takes me to some lead form. And so I'm as they refine this process, I'm excited because it is super clunky. And I could see, to your point, executives might actually like it in a presentation, like, look what's possible. But then for user experience, it's not the best. So as Dailymotion continues to kind of grow and launch, in new countries, what can you share about, the strategy around entering a new culture, a new video market?
I mean, you need local talent, which is extremely difficult to find, because then it's also how do you bring that local talent into your culture as a company, into your vision, et cetera. I feel like we were very successful in setting up our sort of small office in Singapore, which is our sort of like our stakehold in the East, so to say, and it covers all of the regions. We've had multiple backs and forths on whether or not we open, local offices, or we just have, our centralized Singapore one, because of the question of you actually do have to be local to really understand the culture and the video needs. Just the language alone itself is a barrier, but then there's the whole culturality around what type of video, what type of advertising, what type of clients. So today we work with contractors locally, contracted out of Singapore, but it is a constant back and forth for us on the developing of those regions. And the next one for us is Latin America. US is a bit different. We are located here. We have American employees. It's a very large territory, and I'm not going to say it's one culture. It's many. But there is a underlying one language and culture there, so it's a little bit easier to tackle.
So we're in this very, you could say, this, our attention is divided, right? Especially with social media. We've got Facebook, Instagram, of course, TikTok's a big one now. How do you navigate content creation there and make sure that you're getting the right type of content to the right groups? Is it having to get a seat at the table of all these things and like being there, making that part of the experience, getting people back to where you want them to go? Or how do you view that?
We're in a very unique spot where we don't create our content.
Right.
Dailymotion doesn't create their content.
Right.
So we work with what our partners give us.
Right.
Whether it's, any of the data around it or just the content that we can get from it. So we try to do curation through our site for what would be best for that. And the way that it's set up is that it's a bit more discovery mode, and the user will come in and kind of pick their preferences so that they can get fed the things that they want to see, whether it's on entertainment or news or music, etc. But you ask a good question around the role of content creators and how we want to play with that, because we've taken kind of the brand safety stance of we work with vetted producers, but in a world where UGC is exploding, we can't ignore where the growth is going. And if we want true scale at one point, it's something that we need to consider. We've had many discussions for us, not so much in let's go UGC, but more what is the definition of a content creator at Dailymotion? And if we want to cater to that, what is the unique offering that we can give to them versus these other platforms? So it is ongoing. I would say it's a possible next step. Dailymotion is part of Vivendi, which is a French conglomerate that owns a lot of, let's say, media.
Yeah, they're huge
companies.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of insights from like Canal Plus, Havas Media, UMG, try to feeding into that. We had many discussions. This is a little confidential, so I won't get into it, but discussions with UMG on how we can, get involved with, they have a lot of content creators on the music side.
Sure.
And how that could be represented on Dailymotion. So there's a lot of synergies there that we are exploring, and Vivendi is exploring, which I think could surface in the next couple of years. Again, I can't say to anything specific, but it is ongoing discussions that I do find interesting, specifically and because of the age and time that we're in with the content creation in general.
I think music could be that's really interesting. I'm bullish on that idea. So I'll be
so much.
Yeah, there's a lot there. So, okay. I saw that you spoke at TriNet PeopleForce about the future of work. And what are some of the kind of best practices for the modern employer to keep a positive and strong company culture across this global and very distributed workforce?
We talked a lot about what the hybrid format looks like. So us being a global and tech company, we were very easily poised to go remote, let's say remote, hybrid remote, whatever it is. That was pretty much, done overnight, no problem. So that adaptation, I guess we didn't have as much struggle there, which is lucky. I know for others, that's a bit harder. But I see now, and I'm back at the office. The office is reopening in about a week or so, and I'm alone. No one else is coming back, I think. And I do think our biggest struggle is our new hires. Dailymotion, I think, has done a lot of its retention from its people culture. And so do a lot of companies, and we won't be able to rely on that to maintain, let's say, to work on the retention of our talent, which I think is really the most difficult piece that we'll see with this sort of new hybrid or remote workforce, mainly because it was such a strong point, at least for us. And with regards to that, I am curious how we instill culture through this video chat. And I don't think we'll truly be able to remove the in-presence necessity for some of these things. It may not be quite as necessary for all new hires to feel like they need that anymore in a company. That could be sort of the next step. We'll have to figure out what it is instead that people need. And this, there's so much about it in terms of like, is it the value system? Are they aligned with my own, et cetera, et cetera? So maybe it's a larger focus on that. But I'm curious to see if that's all talk or if it's a true trend.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I'd love to get your commentary on, Web 3.0 and this world that we're living in, metaverse. And so we're seeing, a bit of shift into this interactive marketing and all things, of course, Web 3.0 taking off. Is there any kind of marketing potential that you're looking forward to regarding those things?
I'm definitely looking forward to it because I do find it very exciting. But I think when I think of our advertisers, any brand execution in this metaverse is going to be clunky at best in the beginning. I don't see anything super radical, that has great execution in the next year. I think everything will be quite experimental, and I'm actually quite happy for the brands to invest and to start putting that out there. I think it'll be very exciting, but I'm not sure we'll see anything truly, worthwhile till maybe 2023, 24.
I can see that.
Technology just has to get there.
For sure. Yeah. I'm like you. I'm excited to see where it ends up. Let's get into the lightning round. For those of you still with us, still listening, you may wonder, like, where does this Marketing Trends podcast come from? Well, it's brought to you by Salesforce. We love you, Salesforce. Salesforce, when you think of Salesforce, you think of Salesforce bringing marketing and engagement together. If you're interested in learning a bit more, head over to salesforce.com/marketing. Ton of stuff there. Let's get into the lightning round. We've got Caroline Blavet. She is the VP of Global Client Strategy at Dailymotion. Let's get into it. Are you ready for the first question?
I'm ready.
All right. First question, texting or talking?
Ooh, talking.
Okay. What do you love and appreciate about yourself?
Adaptability.
That's a good one. Okay. What is your favorite day of the week?
Tuesday.
Okay. Favorite city in the US?
New York. It's so classic, so boring, but I love it.
What was the last film you saw in a theater?
Oh no, James Bond.
Oh, okay.
They had just reopened the theaters.
Nice.
They had reopened a while ago, but it was my first venture.
Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Oh no, every language in the world.
Okay. All right.
Definitely.
Okay. What is your favorite holiday?
I like, oh God, I don't know why. The first thing that came to mind was July 4th, but I can't explain why. I don't think that's my favorite holiday, but if I'm playing fair, it's the first thing that came to mind.
Okay. That's what we want. Okay. What was your favorite last or favorite live concert?
Definitely. I would have to say, I think it has to be my favorite. It was, it was Radiohead. I was just trying to remember.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Okay. That's awesome. You won me over with that. That's the best answer ever. Okay. And scale of 1 to 10, how good of a driver are you?
I'm pretty good. I'd say I'm like 7, 8.
All right. Okay. Please finish the sentence. Something wise your elders taught you was?
Something wise my elders taught me. Don't think about it too much.
I love that one. I wish your elders would have taught me that. So thank you to your elders. Okay. Would you rather have invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility.
Okay. All right. Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
Depends why you're a vegetarian.
That's a good answer. Okay. If you weren't in marketing, weren't in global client strategy, what would you be doing?
A scuba diving instructor somewhere exotic.
I like that. Okay. What would you go back and tell your younger self, about being a VP in this organization? Like, what would you go back and tell yourself about that?
You're going to really, really enjoy it. Don't get too caught up in the politics of it.
Oh, I like it. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Caroline. This has been an awesome conversation. Congratulations to you with the Dailymotion squad. It's exciting to see what's coming down the pipeline here. And it was awesome. You did great. You were an awesome guest. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. You are very kind. Easy to talk to. Thank you.
Thanks again to Salesforce for making this show possible. To learn more, head over to salesforce.com/marketing.